Welcome learners. In this session, we intend to dive into Dart loops, wherein we are going to categorize different type of loops that Dart programming offers. Number one, the for loop, wherein we understand how, let's say, if you have any app that gives out a multiplication table, how you can write a loop that can generate the output for the multiplication table. Loops, not only in programming, that is Dart programming, it's important. It's kind of very helpful that can actually do a lot of repetitive tasks for you. Understanding loops is going to be very helpful for your further Flutter knowledge. So tune in into the session wherein I'm going to talk about Flutter loops from the very basics. Let's dive into the session wherein I'm going to explain to you how we can write for loop, while loop and do while loop. I'm going to start with, let's say, a for loop. The first point in for loop is initialization, which basically means where would I want my value for I to start from. Let's say I want to start from 0 and go up to 10. Now, if I just want to print the value of I, now upon run, oh, my mistake, I should be putting this as $I. Yeah, so what do you notice? It starts from 0 and goes up to 9, which basically means if I just make it from 1 and equals to 10, so it would start from 1 and terminate at 10. Well, that's exactly what a for loop basically would do. Have an initial value, decide till which point you would continue upon the loop, and then a bit amount of increment that you would do on this I variable. Let's say you're planning to create a multiplication table wherein, let's say, I'll put over here int number equals 5, and I'll say int value number times I, and in the next line if I just print multiplication value for number times I is, so look at the way how I'm formatting my string. The multiplication value for 5 times 1 is 5. In this way we are going to get the output. Let me just comment this piece of code and try to do a run. Well, it says 5 times 1 is 5, so on and so forth, goes up to 5 times 10 is 50. Well, let's say we have a list. Now I'll put over here some student names. Avitaj, Rohani, Viraj, and Vedansh. So what I can try and do is write a loop that prints all the items in the list. So let's say now what I'm going to show to you is called as a for in loop. So let's say we have a variable current student in student names list. So let me rename this to student names list, and then I can just try printing the current student name, and then I'll try to comment this print and click on a different and click on this run button, and basically what you notice is I get all the 4 students which are there in the list. The benefit of for in loop is over here I can keep on adding the elements. Let's say I'll put over here Prashant, and if I try to run the code, you'll notice it actually added the element at the bottom of the list, and it in fact is including all the elements from the beginning till the end. So here it comes a for in loop that don't basically require the initialization, even the condition. Over here it will just iterate through all the elements which are there inside the loop. Next is a while. Let's say I have a number 35421. Now let me just rename this to user number. Now let's say I require the last digit which is there in every, like for example 1, for example after that I'll require 2, so on and so forth, 4, 5, 3. Now in each time the loop is running, I just require one last digit out of the entire number. So what I can try and do is try having this user number not equals to 0. Wait, what I can in fact first try and do is keep a count as 5. Why 5? Because I'm going to manually just know the number of digits that my user number has. Presently it has got 5 digits. So I'll put count not equal to 0, and the moment you enter inside the loop, I am going to do count minus minus. So basically what do I intend to do? I would want the user number modulus 10, or in fact I can just rename this to int last digit is equals to user number modulus 10. Let's try and see if this actually will be giving me the last digit when we have this user number as 1, and in fact this time we are going to get the number 1 for 5 times. Again, this is only for testing purpose. Let me show to you after this iteration how we can get rest of the digits. So I'll put over here last digit and let me even comment out this print statement to have our attention over here. Now upon run, as I told you, I get to see this one each time the loop is running. So basically how does this modulus work? It will basically try to divide the number with 10, and whatever is going to be the remainder we are going to get as the last digit. However, like I told you, I want to go across the entire digits, and hence you'll notice I'm going to do this particular thing. So let me just put an approximate symbol here and try to run the code. So what do you notice? I get 1 followed by 2 followed by 4, 5 and 3. So what logic did I use here? When it comes to the modulus, I understand that it will give me the last digit. Now because I wanted in the next iteration 2 to be there, I basically got rid of this one. How? By dividing it by 10, and that's exactly where we are doing here, divide by 10. Now the problem is this will continue to work fine till the point I have got 5 digits. Let's say even if I change the number over here and try to click on the run button, you'll notice that I get the 5 digits to be separated out, and in the output you can notice it works perfectly fine. However, the moment I try to do something of this sort, then the loop does not show all the digits, and in fact it fails to complete with this three of them. In this case, what I am going to try and do is remove this count and I'll say user number less than equal to 0. Now when I click on run, do you notice line by line I'm able to pick all the digits and even print on the output. So how does the while loop work? The while loop works, or in fact continues the iteration till the point the condition is satisfied. So let's say we have a smaller number as 98. So here you see 8 and 9 got separated. Now how will the loop work? First 98, if I try to get the remainder, I am going to get 8. Hence this 8 gets printed. The moment I divide 98 by 10, look at the data type. Is it integer? So the decimal will be ignored and I'll be having 9. Next, what will happen is in the iteration, it will show 9 modulus 10 and it will be 9. But what will happen if I do 9 divided by 10? It's going to be obviously 0 point something, and hence because it's an integer, it's going to truncate the decimal value and it will get only 0. Hence, even if I try having even a bigger digit number and try to do the run, then you'll notice that this integer, oh well, I kind of exceeded the maximum limit for the integer. Let me try removing some of the digits. Yeah, so basically what do you now notice is till the point my user number does not reach the value 0, it keeps on iterating. That's exactly how the while loop works. Do on the contrary, let me just show it to you. Do meaning it's a do while loop. Let's say I'll put over here it count as 0 and I'll put count so look at the condition here. This do while loop should be working probably when the count should be less than 0. The present value of count is exactly equal to 0. So basically what do you understand is the condition not getting satisfied. So if I put a print statement here like say hello, then probably the say hello, oh my mistake, I did not put a semicolon here. So let me also comment this particular code and run the app. Now what do you notice? This probably should have not worked, but the condition with do while says that the loop will run at least once. For example, if I just keep this as 5 and do count minus minus and try to run the code, then it says hello and it says it for 5 times. However, even if the condition sets to be false and if I try to run the code, still the loop will run at least once. Well, that's only the difference which exists between while and a do while loop. Now let me consider one particular scenario wherein you guys are wanting to break the loop. Let's imagine you have this I value which goes up to 12. let me just put an equal to symbol here. So what I'll try and do, if your I value reaches up to 4, then you'll put a break statement. Otherwise, on the print line, you'll print value of I. So let's try and see. When I try to run this code, oh, my mistake. So let me just try copying this part. Let's consider a scenario wherein we are going to have my entire for loop, but this time I would only want it to show the even numbers that are there between 0 to 12. But this time I also want a if condition which basically will say this particular thing. So what am I trying to do? If I get the number I, let's say 4, when I try to divide 4 with 2, obviously the remainder will be 0. Hence I'll say even number found, and I'll print the value of I. So what do you notice? Inside the for loop, I put up an if condition, and it basically prints all the even numbers that are there in my for loop. However, let's say if it is the value of I to be equals to be 0, then I'll say just continue the execution. Let's try and see what is the output. Did you notice the number with entry 0 just got skipped? Well, that is what continue means. Continue can basically just continue the execution and skip that particular condition if you try putting it inside the loop. So basically, if you don't have this if condition and try to do continue everywhere, you'll just not get any particular output. Now let me copy this and open a new Dartpad web page. Now let me try putting this condition so that when you're trying at your own, you should be able to get an understanding of how the continue works. Okay. Lastly, opposite to continue, there's something called as break. So let's see, now I have the I value to be equals to 10. So I'll put a break. Now if I try to run the code over here, do you notice it did not go up to 12, and if I just would do this, it goes up to 12. That's basically the meaning of break. Break would terminate the loop and any further iterations will be stopped. Well, that's how you go about all the loops that exist in case of Dart. Hopefully the loops demonstration kind of increased your base knowledge on Flutter. Moving forward, I'm going to teach to you abstract class. Well, did you notice while I was trying to write the code for timer screen, each and every time I wrote extends stateless or an extends stateful widget, I had to mandatorily override one function. Well, how exactly did that happen? I'm going to teach to you all of that from the basics, but for that you need to stay tuned and keep learning with open minds.